Well, good morning. It's Sunday morning. I know what you're saying, but Matt, you usually start these projects on Saturday morning. You do a Saturday, and then you do a Sunday. And then Saturday video is on Tuesday, and Sunday video is on Thursday. I know. I'm kind of getting out of pattern right now. Oh, that's a good cup of Joe. But I'll explain to you kind of what's going on here. So I've been doing nonstop constant cleaning on the frame. And what that's consisting of is me sitting for hours and hours on end, wire brushing, sandblasting, or using my favorite tool, which is the needle scaler. And what that consists of is hours and hours of nonstop sandblasting and just, well, it's not very good content. It's not very interesting. It's not very exciting. Even if I montaged it at like 10x speed and added some snappy, non-copyrighted music, I don't think it'd be interesting. So this is the little area that I've set up to put all the clean parts in. So these here have all been sandblasted and painted. Now this area is not big enough for all of them, but keep in mind that when you're looking at this stuff, I mean, a great big piece like this brake drum, that probably took me a healthy 40, 45 minutes in the sandblaster. And these are the brake drums that were on there. These are in really good shape. I have to get them turned, obviously, but there's like no ridge on these. I think that had a brake job done to it probably within the last 10,000 miles, but I don't know. Little things, it gets really monotonous doing this stuff. No, in order to keep my sanity in check, I'm constantly moving to different projects when I reach this stage. So, I might be working on the sandblaster on a part. I might get bored sandblasting that part, so I move on to a different one. Like, for instance, if it's just surface rust, I can clean a part pretty quick. Like, for instance, this is one of the straps for the fuel tank. This I can have cleaned up in a matter of minutes. Whereas, say, for instance, I've got a painted part, like this water pump pulley, which, when whoever painted this, boy, you can feel I think these were dipped. I think they dipped these in probably some type of oil-based Rust-Oleum type farm tractor paint. I guess it's a nice color. But yeah, a piece like that will take a long time for that sandblaster to chew through it. Now, granted, I need to change the media in there. It's mainly dust now. But that's what this is. Hours and hours of prep work on this stuff. And I can't emphasize really how important it is. It's tedious. It is mind-numbing. and quite frankly, hand numbing as well, holding this stupid nibbler for hours on end. Um, of just sitting here 1 square inch at a time going over all this. And I'm going to put some footage in of me actually doing it and my technique, but I can't emphasize how important it is, because it takes going through these steps to get to the fun part. I mean, you saw, the cleaned up parts. That's what we're trying to get to, is get to the point where we're putting that on and we're not getting completely filthy just by touching things. And that's what takes a restoration project from, being kind of, and this isn't really the right term, and I don't mean it to be insulting or anything, from maybe like a mediocre level to like a little bit more of a less mediocre level. Because you can always, there's always somebody that runs faster. There's always somebody that jumps higher, so on and so forth. I'm taking this to a level to where I am getting it as close as I possibly can to being like a brand new vehicle within the means, the methods, well, and quite frankly, the budget that I have set. It's just like, I showed you those brake drums. Those are, there's nothing wrong with those brake drums. I've measured them. They're well within spec. I can go get them turned. I might not even get them turned. I might just, scuff them up a little bit with a abrasive wheel. But with that being said, me not purchasing brand new brake drums for that is a savings of between $100 and $150, depending on what brand I go with. And it's little things like that that chew a project completely up. You buy 5 things that are $100, that's $500, right? You buy 10, that's $1,000. And that all adds into a project. And if you don't absolutely need to do it, why are you doing it? So that's where I'm at. So we'll go back to the brakes thing. Will it need new brakes someday? Yeah, but that's a wearable part. You're always going to need new brakes. Uh, we'll take a really good close look at the bearings and everything, but if they're good Timken bearings that aren't worn, there's no reason to change them. Again, you're going to save $25, $35, $45, $55 in not doing that. Now change the ones you need to be changed. There are things that I'm probably not going to skimp on, which is like U joints and stuff like that, because those are highly inconvenient to replace. So if I've got the drive shafts and the half shafts and stuff like that out of the vehicle, I'm going to change them just because they're out. Different things like that. So don't skimp on the tedious things. I know there's a lot of YouTubers, and there's kind of almost a humor out there and stuff like that are like, oh, we're just gonna we're we're gonna spray paint this and rebuild it, and that's funny. Don't get me wrong, and God knows I have done a ton of that. But if you're tearing a project down to the point where you've got it down to the simplest of simplest, take the time to clean it, take the time, put the work into it, and get it to where it should be, because it's going to reward you in the future. So, and I'll go into that more. Okay, we have another issue here that we need to address, which is here in the frame. So, the frame is in general in extremely good shape, especially as compared to other ones that I've seen. But where these body mounts, I'm going to go ahead and drop that on the floor. Where these body mounts set, they're rusted out. This is extremely thin. This is almost like paper thin here. And we need to address that. Structurally, this probably isn't like the end of the world, but we do need something fairly solid for these mounts to sit on. Now, the reason these rust out is it's just this is the old rubber mount that I took out. So it just sits there. It's just rubber on the frame itself, and the factory doesn't really go to any like super extensive lengths to prep the surface or anything like that. So that rubber just sits on there. Well, over time, moisture and minerals and all kinds of nasty stuff gets up underneath there and just eats that away. Now we're fortunate. We're going to go free range here because in general, mount locations, these mid mounts, which are right above the axle, are the worst. And these on the very back are, I would call them mediocre at best. If you can see where the rust has deteriorated that to the point where this is thin, but it's not here. Now, with that being said, this could be fixed. I mean, this could be something that we might want to look at, but I'm honestly, I'm not too worried about it. But these here, that needs to be looked at, because if you don't, and you put your new body mounts on there, and then you get all that weight pushing down, push that in. So, what we're going to do is, and what I already dropped on the floor, making dad sounds. I've already cut out a piece of metal. Place this. Now this is probably a little overkill, but we're going to cut this out, weld this in, and then drill a new hole. Now you can see here I've already put my measurements down to where the center of this hole is, as best I can tell. And by putting that in there, it's pretty good. And I just measured to the center. So I'm 1 3/4 inches to center off of this inside, and I'm 30 1/8 from the back to the center again. And that's on both sides. Now I've already done the other side. I'll show you real quick, because I wanted to make sure I could do it before I videoed it. But it's pretty okay. Now I'll show you when I get done with this one. But I'm running out of storage here, so I got to go in and address that. This out. I don't care how dumb I look in this. I like it. Yeah, that was pretty nasty. See how this one fits. Like a glove. Not really. We got the repair plates done on the frame here. And I've gone ahead and I've laid out where our hole needs to be. Hey, it's Cross. He's always watching. On both sides. And we're going to drill those holes. So, don't need that anymore. Let me get my punch. Center punch my hole. So I'm not putting the stock style body mount bushings back in. They're just the ones that were on here that weren't bad, but they were definitely crushed. You know, they're 35 years old. That rubber is eventually going to get tired. To replace all those would be like $200, $250. And to get the polyurethane ones, you know, the little aftermarket kits, they're a little bit, you know, they're half the cost. So I know it's a rougher ride. I put polyurethane on the F-250 Big Blue, and it's okay, but you can definitely tell that you're more connected to the frame, whereas with the rubber ones, you're going to have a little bit more cushion, but it kind of is what it is. I'm not too terribly worried about it. I'm not doing it for any performance reasons, like, you know, I don't want the body flex or body roll and stuff, but uh, yeah, that's what we're planning on doing. So the key to any drilling project is a good sharp drill bit. And if you're anything like me, you have no clue on how to effectively sharpen the drill bit, so you just keep buying new ones. And you have an entire drawer full of old dull bits, which is also what I have. So this is an 1 3/8 hole saw. Which, that's a dead battery. Oh yeah. I don't think I have any batteries that aren't dead. Batteries are kind of like sawzall blades and drill bits. Meaning, you have a whole bunch of them, but they're all completely worthless because they're worn out. Let's talk about this for a second. These new brushless tools. Now, I've been using rigid tools for years, and quite frankly, you cannot beat the lifetime warranty. Which this one's going to go back in again because it's getting weak. Because if you use brushless tools, you wear them out. They wear out. I'll take a brush tool with a commutator any day of the week over over these new brushless ones. And I'll give you an example. This is one of the first rigid drills. Oh, that's right. The chuck is bad in this one. Well, let me go find another one. Hang on. So like I was saying, this drill here, this rigid drill. So like I was saying, this particular rigid drill, I bought, I mean, you can tell it's huge. But this was in one of the first combo kits I ever bought. And I bought that probably 20 plus years ago. It's brushed and it still works. Whereas this one's a newer one. Now I do like it because it's compact, but it's not half as powerful as this one. And I've had to send this back for repair, I think 2 or 3 times now, because the brushes, well, it doesn't have brushes. It's got, I don't know, some type of magic happens in there. But yeah, I don't care for non-brushed or brushless tools. I'm not impressed. But anyways, let's drill a hole. That's all it took. And I'm not trying to get in a brand war here. That's not why I said that. I'm not beating up on rigid. Truth be told, I've used them all as a professional. Not a professional here. I'm an amateur here. See how those metal chips coming out of there are dark blue? That means I'm getting too hot. And that's probably this off-brand, non-name brand hole saw. I'm just dropping stuff all over the place. And the thing went up, so now I'll have to fight to get that off of there. I'll hit it with a hammer and it won't do anything. Not sure why I did that. But yeah, like I said, I'm not trying to start a argument about why is this stand all not standing up straight now. I'm not trying to start like a brand war or anything like that. Listen, like I said, in my professional life, I've used them all. There are no tools, whether it be, and I've been doing this long enough that I remember in the trades we had Black and Decker tools. So I go back that far. I've used all the major ones, you know, DeWalt, Milwaukee, Makita. Those are probably the main ones. Personally, I use the rigid stuff here at home just because I do like and utilize the warranty, that lifetime warranty. And I do feel they make pretty decent stuff at a good competitive price. I even have Ryobi stuff. I have Ryobi yard tools. I know, everybody's like, oh, Ryobi. But they seem to be fine for what I do. I'm not a professional hedge trimmer, so my hedge trimmer is a Ryobi because I use it 3 times a year, and it was $100 cheaper than any of the other brands. But anyways, again, not trying to get into a name brand war here and stuff. It's just those drilling made my nose itch. Those brushless tools, they're underpowered, and I just don't care for them. I wish I'd go back to the old old school brush tools, which I know they wear out. And, especially the carbon on the brushes, or graphite, not carbon, graphite. Just using my floor broom. I don't know. But yeah, let's get back to the real content here instead of me complaining about tools. So yeah, got our holes in there, and I think that's a pretty darn good repair. You can hit it with a hammer and it won't go anywhere. So, like I said, I'm not a welder. I'm not a engineer that does math and stuff like that. I'm not, structurally, I can't provide you any data that says that this is as strong or stronger or less strong than it was before. I just make metal hot and put it together, make it stick. Which I'm not concerned about this. I wouldn't be. I mean, honestly, quite frankly, I'd pay somebody to do this if I wasn't capable of doing it myself. So that's repaired there. And so to update the frame, so basically, I have a little bit more here on the outside, but basically from here forward is not done. But the good news is that the corrosion, the further you get towards the front of the vehicle, it always seems like the less the corrosion gets. And I don't know if that's because all the road spray is spraying backwards or what the reason is for that, but it always seems like the very, very back of these Ford trucks on the frames, that's always the worst. And that's why I start there, because I want to get the worst part of it done first. A lot of stirs first, worst in there. See, I got distracted again. So anyways, that's kind of where we're at for now. We're going to keep grinding away on this and getting all the rust off of it. I'm going to end this video here because we're getting quite a ways along here. And the rest of the work that I'm going to be doing on this frame, like I explained before, is just going to be me sitting here grinding and needling and scratching and picking and stuff like that. There's not a whole lot of exciting things going on. I'll probably bring you back in here when I start tearing apart this front axle, because so this is a Dana 44. The Ford twin traction bar, or IBS, independent, is that what it is? Independent IFS, I can't remember, independent front suspension system is kind of unique if you've never been around them. Some people don't like them, which I don't really understand why. I happen to really like them. I'm a little bit more of an engineer, technical minded person, so the more moving components you can have, I tend to get more excited about that. But I think they ride better, especially these coil spring ones. But there are a lot of moving parts and things in there that some people get really grouchy about. They're like, "Oh, you gotta have a solid kingpin axle." I don't know. I think as far as ride quality and four-wheel drive capability, I think these are just fine. But I'm not rock crawling. I'm not, running this through the Baja or whatever. So I don't know. For your common man, I think they're pretty good front suspensions, and I've worked on quite a few of them. And reliability has always been pretty good for me. So, anyways, close that out here. And like I said, I'll bring you back when I'm tearing apart this front axle. And we get into rust treatment, which is going to be some interesting videos, I think, for you guys. Kind of show you my means and methods on how I do that. So appreciate you guys watching. Appreciate everybody that comments, likes, subscribes, and I'll keep it up. Thanks.